I parked my 2010 Toyota Camry between my cousin Marcus's Ferrari and my sister Victoria's Mercedes, already knowing what was coming. The annual Thompson family dinner was more of a wealth competition than a family gathering, and I'd been cast as the perpetual loser. Straightening my simple black dress, bought off the rack at Nordstrom, not custom-made like Victoria's, I grabbed the bottle of wine I'd brought. It was a $2,000 Chateau Lafite Rothschild, not that anyone would notice. They'd already decided everything about me based on my car. Julia, my mother's voice carried across the driveway of her sprawling mansion. You're late. And, oh, you're still driving that car. I forced a smile. Hello, Mother. Inside, the usual suspects were already assembled. Victoria showing off her latest diamond bracelet to our cousin Emma. Marcus loudly discussing his hedge fund's recent success. Aunt Patricia, critiquing everyone's life choices while sipping expensive champagne. Jules. Marcus called out using the nickname I hated. Still slumming it in that startup job? If he only knew that my startup job was actually my own company, Thompson Tech Solutions, currently valued at $4.2 billion. But they didn't need to know that. Not yet. The car still running okay? Victoria added with fake concern. I know a great dealer if you're finally ready to upgrade. Though you might need to check your credit score first. I set my wine bottle on the kitchen counter, watching as my mother immediately replaced it with something from her own collection. My $2,000 bottle would probably end up in her cooking. Julia's just practical, my mother said diplomatically. Not everyone needs luxury items to be happy. The way she said practical made it sound like a terminal illness. I checked my phone, confirming what I already knew. My company's stock had jumped another 15% today after our latest acquisition. The transaction that would shock my entire family was nearly complete. Did you hear about Victoria's promotion? My father jumped in. Junior VP at Morgan Stanley. And Marcus just closed a $50 million deal for his fund. That's wonderful, I said, taking a seat at the massive dining table. Congratulations. Emma leaned forward, her designer dress probably worth more than what they thought I made in a month. Julia dear, I know a great financial advisor. You really should start thinking about your future. My future. I suppressed a smile, thinking about the meeting I'd had this morning with my board of directors. We'd just acquired our biggest competitor for $3.1 billion. A deal I'd orchestrated while my family thought I was struggling at some entry-level tech job. Thanks, Emma. I'll think about it. The dinner proceeded as usual. Victoria detailed her recent trip to the Maldives. Marcus bragged about his new vacation home in Aspen. My mother expertly directed the conversation to highlight everyone's successes while glossing over my apparent lack thereof. Julia's doing her best, she'd say whenever anyone asked about me. She's always been different. Because I'd chosen to build something from scratch instead of following their prescribed path of investment banking or law. Because I'd lived modestly while secretly growing my company into a tech giant. Because I'd never felt the need to prove my worth through designer labels and luxury cars. At least tell me you're dating someone successful, Aunt Patricia prodded. You're not getting any younger, dear. I thought about Daniel, the brilliant engineer I'd been seeing for 6 months. They'd probably be shocked to learn he was worth over $200 million from his own tech ventures. But like me, he preferred keeping a low profile. Just focusing on work right now, I replied. Victoria rolled her eyes. Of course you are. Though what kind of work can you really be doing at? What's the company called again? Thompson Tech Solutions, I said quietly. Never heard of it, Marcus declared. Must be one of those little startup things that'll be gone in a year. If he'd bothered to read any financial news, he'd know that Thompson Tech Solutions was revolutionizing artificial intelligence and cloud computing. We'd been featured in Forbes 3 times this year alone. Speaking of work, Victoria raised her voice slightly. Guess who just got approved for the Morgan Stanley Executive Car Program? I'm thinking either a Bentley or a Rolls. Definitely the Bentley, Emma chimed in. Julia, what made you choose that Toyota? Was it the high safety rating? They laughed and I let them. Let them think I chose my car out of necessity rather than preference. Let them assume I couldn't afford better, rather than choosing to invest my money in building an empire. The Camry's reliable, I said simply. Oh honey, my mother sighed. You know your father and I could help you with a down payment on something more appropriate for a Thompson. I took a sip of wine, thinking about the 3 houses I owned free and clear, including a beachfront property in Malibu that cost more than their entire car collection. I'm fine, Mother. Are you, though? Victoria pressed. I mean, look at your clothes, your car, your whole situation. Don't you want more from life? I thought about my company's current market cap, the thousands of employees who depended on me, the technological innovations we were developing that would change the world. I'm content with my choices. Marcus snorted into his wine glass. Content with mediocrity. Typical Jules. That's when my phone buzzed. The caller ID showed my assistant's name, Angela. She knew not to interrupt family dinner unless it was urgent. Excuse me, I said, standing up. I need to take this. Really, Julia? My mother frowned. It's rude to take calls at dinner. I stepped away from the table anyway, feeling their judgmental stares. Angela? What's wrong? Miss Thompson, I'm sorry to interrupt, but there's an issue with the jet. The maintenance team in Dubai needs your approval for some upgrades before your flight to Singapore next week. I could feel Victoria trying to eavesdrop. The jet? She whispered to Emma. Must be her company's courier service or something. If they only knew the courier service was my personal Gulfstream G650. Tell them to proceed with the upgrades, I said clearly, watching their expressions shift from dismissive to confused. And make sure the pilot files the flight plan for Singapore with a stopover in Tokyo. I have that meeting with our Japanese investors. The table had gone silent. Even Marcus had stopped mid-brag. Also, Angela continued, Mr. Chin from the board wanted to confirm your availability for tomorrow's press conference about the acquisition. Yes, I'll be there. Make sure the PR team has the statement ready about our $3.1 billion purchase of Maxtech Industries. I heard a wine glass shatter. Victoria's perfectly manicured hand had slipped, sending her burgundy spreading across her designer dress. Is that all, Angela? Just one more thing. Forbes wants to update your net worth for their 40 under 40 list. Should I give them the current figure or wait until after the acquisition goes public? I turned back to the table, meeting their shocked stares. Let's wait. The stock jump from today's news should be interesting. I hung up, tucking my phone away as I returned to my seat. The silence was deafening. My mother's fork hung halfway to her mouth. Marcus's face had lost its smug smile. Emma was frantically Googling on her phone, probably searching for Thompson Tech Solutions. Julia, my father finally managed. What was that about a jet? I took another sip of wine, savoring the moment I'd been waiting for all these years. Oh, didn't I mention? I need to cut dinner short. I have a flight to catch. The silence that followed felt like it could shatter glass. Victoria was the first to recover, her wine-stained dress forgotten. You're lying, she accused, her voice shrill. This is some kind of joke. I pulled out my phone again, opening the Bloomberg app. Thompson Tech Solutions current market cap $4.2 billion. So, Julia Thompson. I slid the phone across the table. Feel free to fact-check. Marcus grabbed the phone, his hands actually shaking. This can't be right. You're nothing. You drive a Camry. Because I choose to, I replied calmly. Unlike some people, I don't need expensive cars to prove my worth. Emma was still frantically Googling. Oh my God, she whispered. She's telling the truth. Julia's on Forbes 30 under 30. She's been on CNBC. There are articles about her everywhere. My mother's face had gone pale. But why didn't you tell us? All these years. Would it have mattered? I asked, thinking of all the family dinners where they talked over me, dismissed my career, treated me like their collective failure. You never asked what I actually did. You were too busy bragging about Victoria's entry-level banking job or Marcus's small hedge fund. Small. Marcus sputtered. I manage $50 million. I couldn't help but laugh. That's cute. I signed off on $100 million in bonuses last quarter alone. My father cleared his throat, his business instincts finally kicking in. Princess, perhaps we should discuss some investment opportunities. Now that we know about your success. No. I cut him off firmly. I'm not your princess anymore. That stopped the day you told me I was embarrassing the family by starting my own company instead of joining Morgan Stanley with Victoria. Victoria flinched at the memory. She'd been there when our father had that conversation with me, smirking as he detailed all the ways I was disappointing the Thompson name. But that's what family does, my mother protested weakly. We help each other. Really? I raised an eyebrow. Like when you helped Victoria with the down payment on her Mercedes while telling me I needed to learn financial responsibility? Or when you funded Marcus's startup fund but called my business plan unrealistic? Aunt Patricia, never one to miss an opportunity, leaned forward. Darling, now that we know about your position, you simply must join the country club. I'll sponsor you myself. The same country club that rejected my application last year because my car wasn't appropriate? I smiled coldly. I bought it last month. The members just don't know yet. Another wine glass hit the table too hard. This time it was Marcus's. My phone buzzed again. It was Daniel. Your pilot called me, his text read. Want me to bring the Aston Martin to pick you up instead of the usual cars? I texted back, no, let's stick to the plan. The Camry's perfect for tonight. Julia. Victoria's voice had taken on a syrupy sweetness I recognized from childhood, the tone she used when she wanted something. I've actually been thinking about leaving Morgan Stanley. Maybe we could discuss some opportunities at your company. You mean the little startup thing that'll be gone in a year? I quoted Marcus's earlier words. I think we're fully staffed. Emma jumped in, ever the opportunist. You know, I've always been interested in tech. Really? I interrupted. Name one coding language. She fell silent, deflated. My mother was still struggling to process everything. But your clothes, your car, your apartment, are all choices, I finished for her. I could buy this house with one day's earnings. I could have any car I want. But unlike some people, I don't measure success by what I own. How much? My father asked bluntly. How much are you worth? I stood up, smoothing my off-the-rack dress. More than everyone at this table combined. Multiple times over. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Angela. Car's ready whenever you are, Miss Thompson. The board members in Singapore are eager to start the meeting. Thank you, Angela. I'm leaving now. I turned to my stunned family. This has been illuminating. But I have a company to run. Wait. Victoria called out desperately. You can't just drop this on us and leave. Why not? You've been dropping judgments on me for years. I picked up my purse. A simple leather tote that probably cost more than Victoria's flashy designer bags. Oh, and Mother? That wine you relegated to the cooking shelf? It's worth more than Marcus's monthly fund returns. As I walked toward the door, my father found his voice again. Julia, be reasonable. We're family. We should discuss this arrangement. I turned back one last time. The time for discussion was years ago when I needed support. No, I don't need anything from any of you. But we're blood, my mother pleaded. Blood doesn't excuse behavior, I replied. You all made your choices about how to treat me. Now you get to live with them. Outside, my faithful Camry waited. Behind me, I could hear the chaos erupting, Victoria's shrill demands, Marcus's protests, Emma's attempts to connect with me on LinkedIn from her phone. As I drove away, my mother ran out to the driveway. Julia, please, we can start over. I didn't stop. The next morning, my family's attempts to contact me started. First came the texts. Victoria, hey sis. Remember when I helped you with your college applications? Good times. Let's do lunch. Marcus, Jules. Got some amazing investment opportunities to discuss. Call me. Emma, LinkedIn says you're hiring. Coffee soon. Then the emails. Mother, darling, I've been thinking about all the wonderful memories we could make together now. Father, Princess, let's discuss how to integrate your success into the family's legacy. I forwarded them all to my assistant with one instruction: add to the blocked list. At the press conference announcing the MaxTech acquisition, a reporter asked about my modest lifestyle despite my wealth. Success isn't about what you own, I told her. It's about what you build. The story made headlines. Tech's secret billionaire, the CEO who drives a Camry. Victoria saw it and tried a new approach. I always knew you were special, sis. Remember how I used to let you borrow my clothes? I remembered. I also remembered how she told everyone I couldn't afford my own. Marcus attempted to pitch his fund to my board members, somehow getting their contact information. They sent his proposal straight to spam. My mother joined every charity board she could find, suddenly passionate about supporting young entrepreneurs. She made sure to mention her successful tech CEO daughter at every meeting. My father tried to leverage my success in his business circles, claiming he'd always supported Julia's vision. His colleagues who knew the truth just smiled politely. A month after the dinner, I received an invitation to the family's annual charity gala. The note read, "Special guest of honor, Julia Thompson, tech visionary." I sent back a simple response, unable to attend. Prior commitment in Singapore. I was actually in town that weekend working from my penthouse office while they posed for photos and pretended they'd always believed in me. Victoria gave an interview to the local paper about how she'd inspired her sister's success. Marcus told anyone who would listen about our close relationship. The truth? They hadn't inspired anything except my determination to succeed despite them. Last week, Victoria lost her job at Morgan Stanley, budget cuts. She sent me her resume with a note. Family first, right? Marcus's fund lost its biggest investor. He tried to schedule a meeting with my investment team. Emma's husband's business went under. She started posting motivational quotes about successful family connections on LinkedIn. I ignored them all. Instead, I focused on what mattered. Running my company, developing new technologies, creating jobs. The Camry still sits in my parking spot between Maseratis and Bentleys. My employees love it. It's become a symbol of our company culture. Success without showmanship. Yesterday, I overheard two of my junior developers talking. Is it true she's a billionaire who drives a Toyota? Yeah, and she wears normal clothes and lives in a regular apartment. But why? She could have anything. Because she doesn't need to prove anything to anyone. They get it. My family never will. This morning, I received another dinner invitation from my mother. The note mentioned she'd finally learned to properly store fine wine. I sent back the same bottle she'd relegated to cooking. A $2,000 Chateau Lafite Rothschild. The note read, "For your cooking shelf." I hear it adds excellent flavor to rejection letters. Sometimes success isn't about proving people wrong. It's about proving yourself right. And sometimes the best revenge isn't showing people what they missed. It's letting them see it from a distance they can never cross. As for me, I'm taking my Camry to a board meeting. We're discussing a $5 billion expansion. I think I'll send my family a press release about it. After all, that's how they prefer to hear about my life anyway. The pristine halls of Metropolitan General Hospital echoed with the click of expensive heels as I made my way to the service entrance, again. My mother's text had been clear. Use the back door. We can't have the board members seeing you come through the main entrance. Not good for our image. I adjusted my simple white coat, feeling the weight of my dual MD/PhD degrees in my pocket. Not that they mattered to my parents. The hospital's star surgeons, Dr. Elizabeth and Dr. James Walker. Sarah. My mother's sharp voice caught me as I slipped in through the service entrance. I told you to come at 7. The board members arrive at 8 and I can't have them seeing you skulking around. I checked my watch, a Rolex hidden under my sleeve. It's 6:45, Mom. And your father's already in his morning meeting, she hissed, ushering me toward the basement research labs. Go on back to your little research project. At least down there no one will mistake you for actual medical staff. The irony of her words almost made me smile. Almost. Dr. Walker. A nurse hurried up to my mother. Your 9 a.m. patient's test results are ready. Wonderful, Mom brightened, already forgetting my presence. I'll review them before my board presentation about the new surgical wing named after your father and me. I slipped away, heading down to my little research project. The state-of-the-art laboratory hidden in the basement, funded by grants they knew nothing about. My phone buzzed with a message from Dr. Zhang, the head of the hospital board. Everything's ready for tomorrow. They have no idea. I typed back a quick confirmation and entered my lab, where my team of 20 researchers looked up from their workstations. Dr. Sarah, my lead researcher, smiled. The final trials are complete. The results are extraordinary. I reviewed the data on the massive screens lining the walls. 3 years of secret research, countless nights of work, all leading to this moment. We'd done it, created a revolutionary surgical AI system that could reduce complications by 95% and cut recovery times in half. Your parents still don't know? Dr. Miller, my deputy, asked quietly. They think I'm doing basic research, I replied, remembering this morning's humiliation. Dad says it keeps me out of the way of real doctors. My phone rang. It was my father. Sarah, he barked without greeting. Your mother says you came through the service entrance late. We've talked about this. If you can't follow simple instructions, maybe it's time to reconsider your position here. My position? I kept my voice neutral, watching my team pretend not to listen. Yes. Dr. Chin from City Hospital is looking for lab technicians. It might be more suitable for someone of your abilities. The screens behind me displayed the results of our final trials. Results that would revolutionize modern surgery. Results that would make tomorrow's board meeting very interesting. I'll think about it, Dad, I said calmly. How's the presentation for the Walker Surgical Wing coming along? Brilliantly, he boasted. The board's voting tomorrow. Your mother and I will finally have our names where they belong, on the building itself. Sounds wonderful, I murmured, signing the final documents Dr. Zhang had sent over. I'm sure tomorrow's board meeting will be memorable. After hanging up, I turned to my team. Send the results to the National Medical Board. And call Dr. Zhang, it's time. They really have no idea, do they? Dr. Miller asked, watching the data stream to the national database. About who you really are? I thought about the years of dismissal, of being forced to use service entrances, of being introduced as our daughter who works in the lab rather than Dr. Sarah Walker, double board-certified surgeon with a PhD in AI medical applications. No, I smiled slightly, watching my parents' names flash on the hospital announcement board. Here's Walker to present new surgical wing plans tomorrow. But they're about to find out. My phone buzzed again, this time with a message from the National Medical Board. Revolutionary AI surgical system approved. Immediate implementation required in all major hospitals. Perfect timing. I looked around my little research project, the most advanced medical AI laboratory in the country, funded by grants larger than my parents' combined career earnings. Tomorrow at the board meeting, everything would change. Dr. Sarah, my assistant, poked her head in. Your parents' medical licenses and surgical privileges documentation has been uploaded to your secure server, as requested. I nodded, thinking of all the times they'd made me use the service entrance, hide in the basement, pretend to be less than I was. Thank you. And the board meeting tomorrow? Moved to 9 a.m. Dr. Zhang says everything's in place. I picked up my white coat, the one they thought marked me as just a researcher. They hadn't noticed the chief of surgery credentials embroidered on the inside, or the patents listed under my name. Tomorrow they'd learn why you should never judge a doctor by which entrance she uses. The hospital boardroom buzzed with anticipation the next morning. My parents sat at the front, their matching designer suits and confident smiles reflecting their certainty of victory. The Walker surgical wing presentation materials lay ready on the polished table. I sat quietly in the back corner, where they'd instructed me to stay out of sight. Before we begin, Dr. Zhang stood, adjusting his tie. There's been a change in today's agenda. My father frowned. We're presenting the plans for the new surgical wing. Actually, Dr. Zhang interrupted, we're discussing something far more significant. He nodded to his assistant, who distributed thick folders to every board member. Please review these materials. My mother's face tightened as she opened the folder. What is this about a new AI surgical system? The most advanced medical AI ever created, Dr. Zhang smiled, pressing a button. The room's screens lit up with my research data. Approved last night by the National Medical Board. It reduces surgical complications by 95% and halves recovery times. Dad waved his hand dismissively. Some tech companies experiment? We're here to discuss real medicine. The creator of this system, Dr. Zhang continued, is already in this room. Every head turned, searching for the mystery inventor. My parents didn't even glance in my direction. Dr. Sarah Walker, Dr. Zhang gestured to me, would you please take the podium? The silence was deafening as I stood, removing my simple lab coat to reveal my chief of surgery credentials. My mother's champagne glass slipped from her fingers. Impossible, she whispered. 3 years ago, I began walking to the front. When you forced me to use the service entrance, I was already running the largest medical AI research project in history. While you were planning your surgical wing, I was revolutionizing surgery itself. The screens displayed my credentials. Dual MD/PhD, multiple board certifications, and patents that made me the most valuable surgeon in modern medicine. This is absurd, Dad stood up. Sarah works in the basement lab. Your daughter, Dr. Zhang cut in, owns that lab. And as of last night, her AI system is mandatory in all major hospitals nationwide. I pulled up the implementation requirements. Every surgery must now use this system. Every surgeon must be certified on it. I paused, looking directly at my parents. Including you. Mom's face went pale. You mean? Your surgical privileges, I confirmed, now depend on passing certification on my system. The board members were frantically reviewing the data, whispering among themselves about the billions in potential revenue. My parents sat frozen, watching their carefully constructed world shift. Furthermore, Dr. Zhang continued, the board has unanimously voted to appoint Dr. Sarah Walker as Chief of Surgery, effective immediately. Dad jumped up. You can't do this. We're the most senior surgeons. With complication rates 3 times higher than the national average, I displayed their surgical statistics. Statistics you've been hiding from the board. The room erupted in shocked murmurs. My parents had built their reputation on their supposedly perfect record. How did you? Mom's voice trailed off. Access your records? I smiled. I've had full system access for 2 years. I know everything, including how you've been selecting patients to maintain your success rates. Dr. Zhang stood again. In light of these revelations, the board has additional concerns about your surgical privileges. You'd strip our privileges? Dad's face reddened. Based on our daughter's little computer program? I pulled up another screen, their recent surgical videos. This AI doesn't just assist surgery. It monitors every movement, every decision, every deviation from best practices. I highlighted several concerning moments from their recent operations. Would you like to explain these instances to the board? They stared at the evidence of their shortcuts, their mistakes, their pride-driven decisions. Your surgical privileges, I continued calmly, now require my signature. As does your continued employment at this hospital. You wouldn't dare, Mom hissed. We're your parents. The same parents who made their daughter use service entrances? Who dismissed her achievements? Who tried to demote her to lab technician? Dr. Zhang's voice was cold. Perhaps you should have paid more attention to which door she was using. The board members were now openly glaring at my parents, their years of arrogance finally catching up with them. You have 2 options, I stated, pulling up their personnel files. Immediate retirement with basic benefits or... I paused, enjoying the role reversal. You can remain as junior surgeons under my supervision, required to enter through the service entrance until you prove yourselves worthy of the main doors. Dad's face had turned an alarming shade of red. This is outrageous. We built this department. And now, I cut in, your daughter owns it. Along with the patents that will revolutionize surgery worldwide. I pressed another button and the Walker Surgical Wing presentation disappeared from the screens, replaced by my AI system's logo. The new wing will still be built, I announced. But it will be called the Innovation Center for Surgical Excellence. And yes, I smiled at my stunned parents, you'll need to use the service entrance to access it. As security arrived to escort them to clear out their offices, I turned back to the board. Now, shall we discuss the future of surgery? Behind me, I heard my mother's muffled sob as she finally understood. Her daughter hadn't just surpassed them. She'd completely transformed the power structure they'd used to diminish her. The service entrance, it turned out, had led straight to the top. 1 month after the board meeting, I stood in my new office, the combined space of my parents' former domains. The wall of windows overlooked both the main entrance and, pointedly, the service door they now used daily. Dr. Sarah, my assistant, entered. Your parents are here for their weekly performance review. I nodded, pulling up their files on my holographic display. Send them in. They entered differently now, heads down, wearing standard hospital scrubs instead of designer suits. The past month had stripped away their arrogance, replacing it with something they'd never shown before, humility. Sit, I gestured to the chairs where they'd once made me wait for hours. Let's review your progress. Mom spoke first, her voice lacking its former imperial tone. We've completed the AI certification modules. Basic levels only, I corrected, displaying their scores. You'll need advanced certification to perform independent surgeries. But we've been surgeons for 30 years. Dad protested weakly. I pulled up their recent surgical videos, now mandatory recordings under my new protocols. 30 years of outdated techniques and unnecessary risks. This AI system has already prevented 3 potentially fatal errors in your procedures this month alone. Their faces flushed as they watched their mistakes played back in high definition. Furthermore, I continued, the nursing staff reports you're still attempting to use the main entrance. The service entrance is. Mom began, then stopped, remembering how many times she'd forced me to use it. Humiliating. I finished for her. Yes, it is. Consider it part of your remedial training in empathy. The screens around us displayed the hospital's transformed statistics. Surgical complications down 97%, patient satisfaction up 89%, and global recognition for our innovative approaches. Your AI system, Dad said quietly, it's really quite remarkable. Now you notice? I raised an eyebrow. Not when I was wasting time in the basement lab. Not when you tried to have me transferred to City Hospital as a technician. They had the grace to look ashamed. Well, I stood, walking to the window. You'll have plenty of time to appreciate it. The board has approved my new training protocols. All surgeons must now complete 6 months of laboratory research before receiving full privileges. 6 months in the lab? Mom's horror was evident. In the basement, I clarified, where all the little research projects happen. I pulled up the hospital's new organizational chart, their names now buried deep in the junior staff section, while mine sat at the top alongside my innovations that were transforming modern medicine. There is another option, I offered, watching them perk up slightly. Immediate retirement. Your choice. They exchanged glances, 30 years of surgical supremacy crumbling around them. We'll take the lab rotation, Dad mumbled. Excellent, I smiled, pressing a button. Their new lab coats materialized from a hidden closet, pristine white, with their names embroidered small and Junior Research Associate prominent above them. One more thing, I added as they stood to leave. The National Medical Board is implementing my AI system nationwide. Every hospital will require certification. I paused, letting it sink in. Which means every hospital will know about your demotion. Mom's carefully maintained composure cracked. You've destroyed our reputation. No, I corrected firmly, you did that yourselves. I simply created a system that exposes surgical incompetence and prevents medical arrogance from risking patient lives. As if on cue, my phone lit up with another hospital acquisition notification. My AI system was now mandatory in over 1,000 hospitals worldwide. Your shift starts in 10 minutes, I reminded them. Don't forget to sign in through the service entrance. Oh, and Mom, I called as they turned to leave. The basement gets cold. You might want to leave the designer shoes at home. After they left, Dr. Zhang entered with the latest implementation reports. Your parents seem different, he observed diplomatically. Amazing what a month of humility can do, I replied, watching them cross the parking lot toward the service entrance. How's the global rollout proceeding? Phenomenally. Though some surgeons are resisting the AI oversight. Like my parents did? I smiled. Don't worry. Pride comes before the fall. I learned that from experts. My phone buzzed with a message from the National Medical Board. Revolutionary AI system saves 10,000th life. Creator Dr. Sarah Walker named Surgeon of the Year. I looked down at my parents, now waiting by the service entrance, authorization pending my approval. Their faces turned up toward my office window, the same window they'd once gazed from while dismissing my potential. Dr. Sarah, my assistant called through the intercom, should I approve their entrance? I watched them waiting, remembering all the times they'd made me stand there, feeling small and insignificant. Yes, I decided. But remind them, lab coats must be pristine, shoes must be practical, and most importantly, I smiled as they finally received entry approval. Hubris has no place in modern medicine. The sun set over the hospital complex, its rays catching the new sign being installed. Walker AI Surgical Innovation Center. Named not for my parents, but for the daughter they'd tried to hide in the basement. The pristine walls of St. Clair Medical Center's executive boardroom felt suffocating as I sat through another family dinner disguised as a hospital board meeting. Dad, the current CEO, stood at the head of the table, gesturing at profit charts while my older sister Lauren nodded enthusiastically in her perfectly pressed white coat. Our family has run this network for 3 generations, Dad announced proudly. And soon, Lauren will continue our legacy as chief of surgery. I adjusted my simple black blazer, checking my phone discreetly. The notification made me smile. Final paperwork complete. Transfer of ownership confirmed. What about you, Olivia? Mom's voice dripped with disappointment. Still working on that. What was it? Medical technology startup. Something like that, I replied, watching the hospital director, Mr. Phillips, hurry toward our meeting room with an urgent expression. She blew her $50,000 inheritance from Grandma on that startup, Dad told everyone, shaking his head. While Lauren invested hers in hospital stocks like a sensible doctor. Lauren smirked, her diamond engagement ring catching the light. Not everyone can handle the family business, Daddy. Some of us are meant for greater things, others. She glanced at me, waste their potential. The boardroom door burst open. Mr. Phillips entered, clutching a stack of papers, his face pale. Dr. Anderson, he addressed Dad, we need your immediate approval on the new cardiac wing budget, but... He swallowed hard. According to our records, Dr. Olivia now owns 73% of our medical network. Mom's coffee cup missed her mouth entirely, creating a brown stain on her designer blouse. That's impossible, Dad sputtered. She's not even on the board. I stood slowly, smoothing my blazer. Actually, I am. As majority shareholder, I appointed myself chairwoman last night. But, your inheritance, Lauren stammered. You spent it on that failing startup. MedTech Solutions? I smiled. The company that just revolutionized AI-driven diagnostics? Yes, I did. That $50,000 investment is now worth $2.3 billion. Enough to buy controlling interest in every hospital in our network. Dad collapsed into his chair. You can't. This is our family legacy. I corrected, pulling out my tablet. Mr. Phillips, please distribute the new organizational charts. As you'll see, some significant changes are coming. Lauren lunged for the papers. I'm supposed to be chief of surgery. We announced it last week. About that, I turned to her. Your performance reviews are concerning. 3 malpractice suits settled quietly? Patient complaints about your bedside manner? The board, my board now, feels you need more time in residency. This is outrageous. Mom stood up, coffee still dripping from her blouse. You can't just take over our hospitals. Our hospitals? I raised an eyebrow. The ones you inherited rather than earned? The ones where qualified doctors were passed over so Lauren could advance? Those hospitals. My phone buzzed. The press release was going live. Turn on the news, I suggested, pointing to the boardroom's massive screen. The headline scrolled. Medical prodigy Dr. Olivia Anderson acquires major hospital network. AI diagnostics revolution promises affordable healthcare for all. You were so busy mocking my waste of inheritance, I continued. You never noticed what I was building. Every time you called my startup worthless, I bought more shares. Every time Lauren got a promotion she didn't earn, I acquired another hospital. Mr. Phillips handed me another document. The transfer of the executive offices is complete, Dr. Anderson. Would you like to see your new space? Dad's face turned purple. My office? You're taking my office. Actually, I smiled, I'm turning it into a free clinic. The penthouse view will be perfect for patients who could never afford your premium care rates. The look on their faces was worth every dismissive comment, every family dinner spent listening to Lauren's accomplishments, every mockery of my wasted inheritance. Lauren's pager beeped, a sound that would soon be obsolete under my new AI diagnostic system. She ignored it, her perfectly manicured hands shaking as she flipped through the organizational changes. This is a mistake, she insisted, voice cracking. I've spent years preparing to run this network. Preparing? I pulled up her personnel file on the boardroom screen. Let's review your preparation. 3 surgeries where junior residents did the work while you took credit. 5 complaints about refusing to treat Medicare patients. And I paused for effect. Interesting notes about your research papers being surprisingly similar to unpublished works by your subordinates. Mom gasped. Those are confidential records. We're confidential, I corrected. Transparency is our new policy. Speaking of which, I pressed a button on my tablet, and the boardroom walls transformed into digital displays showing real-time hospital statistics. These screens will now show waiting times, treatment costs, and patient outcomes. No more hiding poor performance behind family connections. Dad stood up, attempting to regain control. The board won't stand for this. The board. I laughed softly. Already replaced. Meet your new directors. The screens showed profiles of renowned medical innovators from around the world. Unlike the old board, they actually earned their positions. Mr. Phillips cleared his throat. Dr. Anderson, the press is waiting in the lobby. And the new AI diagnostic units are being installed in all emergency departments. Lauren's face went white. AI diagnostics? But that eliminates half my job. It eliminates human error, I corrected. And bias. Your tendency to prioritize wealthy patients won't be an issue anymore. The news coverage continued on the screens. Revolutionary AI system shows 99.8% accuracy in early disease detection. Dr. Olivia Anderson's MedTech solutions set to transform healthcare. But what about the Anderson legacy? Mom pleaded. I walked to the window, looking out at the hospital complex that had been our family's symbol of power. The legacy of overcharging patients? Of promoting family over talent? That legacy ends today. My phone buzzed again. The stock market was reacting to the news. Our share price had doubled in minutes. You have choices to make, I announced, turning back to my family. Lauren, you can return to residency, this time without preferential treatment. Dad, you can retire gracefully or face the board's investigation into your hiring practices. Mom, the charity foundation needs reorganizing, actual charity this time, not social events disguised as fundraisers. And if we refuse? Lauren challenged. I smiled, picking up my tablet. Then you can read about your replacements in tomorrow's papers. Either way, the Anderson Medical Network is entering the future. With or without the Andersons. Security entered. My security team now. The office is ready, Dr. Anderson. Perfect. I headed for the door, then paused. Oh, and Lauren, that parking spot you love, right by the emergency entrance? It's being converted to ambulance space. You can use the staff lot like everyone else. As I walked out, I heard Mom burst into tears and Dad slump into his chair. But for the first time in years, the sound of their disappointment didn't affect me. After all, I hadn't wasted my inheritance. I'd multiplied it. And in doing so, I'd purchased the right to remake our family's legacy into something actually worth preserving. 1 month after the takeover, I stood in the newly renovated emergency department, watching as my AI diagnostic system processed patients 4 times faster than the old method. The waiting room, once crowded with suffering people, now moved efficiently as technology and humanity worked in perfect harmony. My phone buzzed with a message from the board. Lauren's residency evaluation complete. Results concerning. Before I could respond, Mom's familiar click of heels echoed through the corridor. She'd traded her designer suits for more practical attire since taking over the foundation. My first sign that perhaps change was possible. Olivia, she said, clutching a newspaper. Have you seen today's headline? I had. Anderson Network revolutionizes emergency care. Wait times drop 75% under new leadership. That's not the one I mean. She thrust the society pages at me. Lauren's fiancé broke off their engagement. He's accepting a position at Mayo Clinic. Probably because I canceled his unearned research grant, I replied, watching the AI system diagnose a complex cardiac case in minutes. Merit matters now, Mom. She's devastated. First her chief of surgery position, now this. She's lucky I didn't report her research plagiarism, I cut in. How is she doing in her renewed residency? Mom's silence was telling. My tablet chimed with an incoming video call. Dad, calling from his mandatory retirement vacation. The board found more irregularities, he started without preamble. But they must be mistakes. The offshore accounts? I interrupted. Or the hidden malpractice settlements. Don't worry, Dad. The FBI already has everything. His face paled. You reported your own father? I reported a CEO who violated healthcare laws, I corrected. Family doesn't excuse fraud. The emergency department doors burst open as Lauren stormed in, still in her surgical scrubs. You did this, she screamed. You destroyed everything. Security moved forward, but I waved them back. It was time for this confrontation. No, Lauren. You did this. All of you did. Every time you chose privilege over merit. Every time you put profit over patience. Every time you mocked my little startup, while practicing medieval medicine. Medieval, she sputtered. I'm a surgeon. Are you? I pulled up her latest evaluation on my tablet. Because according to your supervisors, you can barely handle basic procedures without assistance. Your success was built on our name, not your skills. Mom stepped between us. Girls, please. Show them, I commanded the AI system. The wall screens lit up with patient statistics. Left side, Lauren's cases. Right side, first-year residents. Notice anything. The numbers were damning. Lauren's complications rates, patient complaints, and procedure times were significantly worse than doctors with a quarter of her experience. That's not fair. Lauren protested. These new systems are rigged. The systems show truth, I cut in. Raw data. No family name to hide behind. No dad to smooth things over. Just facts. My phone buzzed again. The AI system had just prevented 3 potential misdiagnoses in other hospitals across our network. This is what I was building while you were planning your chief of surgery acceptance speech, I continued. Real innovation. Real change. Real medicine. Lauren slumped against the wall, her carefully constructed world crumbling. What am I supposed to do now? Learn, I replied simply. Start over. Earn your position instead of inheriting it. The AI system can be your teacher instead of your replacement, if you're willing to admit you need teaching. Mom looked around the transformed emergency department, reality finally sinking in. All this time while we were bragging about Lauren's career, you were actually changing medicine. Funny how success looks different when you measure it by impact instead of status, I said, turning back to my tablet. Now, if you'll excuse me, we're implementing the system in 3 new hospitals today. As I walked away, Lauren called out, Why didn't you tell us about any of this? I paused, looking back at my family standing in the middle of my revolution. Would you have listened? Or just told me I was wasting my inheritance again? Sometimes the greatest innovations come from those everyone underestimated. And sometimes the best revenge is simply proving them wrong. 6 months after the takeover, I stood on the stage of our largest hospital's auditorium, preparing to unveil the next phase of our medical revolution. The room was packed with international media, healthcare leaders, and most surprisingly, my family sitting quietly in the back row. Dr. Anderson's AI system has reduced medical errors by 89% across the network, the presenter announced. Patient satisfaction is at record highs, and treatment costs have dropped by 60%. I approached the podium, noting how Lauren, now in standard resident scrubs, actually appeared to be taking notes. Dad sat beside her, the arrogance gone from his posture, while Mom watched with what looked like genuine pride. Today, I began, we're announcing the Global Health Initiative. Our AI diagnostic system will be made available to developing nations at no cost. Healthcare shouldn't be a privilege of wealth or geography. The audience erupted in applause. In the back, I saw Dad wipe his eyes. My phone buzzed with breaking news. Anderson Network transforms healthcare. Stock hits record high as global initiative launches. After the presentation, Lauren approached me hesitantly. Your AI caught something today, she said quietly. A diagnosis I missed. It saved my patient's life. That's what it's designed to do, I replied. Help doctors be better, not replace them. I've been thinking about what you said, she continued. About earning things. I'd like to learn the system properly. Start over. Do it right this time. Before I could respond, Mom joined us holding a dusty box. I found this in the attic, she said. Your old research notes from when you first started the company. I never read them back then. I should have. Inside the box were journals filled with early AI algorithms, patient care theories, and one photo of me at 12 holding my first computer, declaring I would change medicine forever. You did it, Mom whispered. While we were focused on maintaining the old system, you built a better one. Dad approached last, looking older but somehow more real without his CEO facade. The FBI finished their review, he said. Thanks to your cooperation, they're not pressing charges. But I understand why you reported everything. It wasn't about punishment, I explained. It was about transformation. The network needed to change. We needed to change, Lauren corrected. My tablet chimed. The AI system had just prevented its millionth potential medical error worldwide. Lives saved by technology and truth. I'm establishing a new medical scholarship, I announced. For students who have brilliant ideas but lack family connections. The kind of student I was before the inheritance. The inheritance you didn't waste, Mom said softly. No, I smiled. I invested it. In change. The auditorium screens still showed the Global Health Initiative launch. Hospitals in developing nations were already implementing the system, saving lives that the old medical establishment had ignored. Lauren, I turned to my sister. There's a position opening in our AI research department. Entry level. No shortcuts, no family preferences. Interested? She nodded, understanding the opportunity and restriction being offered. And Dad, I continued, the ethics board needs experienced advisors. Someone who understands how power can corrupt medicine and how to prevent it. If you're willing to teach from your mistakes. He straightened, finding purpose in redemption. I'd be honored. Mom held up my childhood photo. Should we hang this in the hospital lobby? The beginning of the real Anderson legacy. No, I replied. Hang it in the research lab. To remind everyone that innovation doesn't care about your last name or your connections. It only cares about your ideas. As my family left to their new roles, earned roles, I looked out over the hospital complex. The AI system hummed efficiently, saving lives without prejudice or privilege. Doctors learned from technology instead of fearing it. Patients received care based on need, not wealth. This was the true inheritance. Not money or position, but the power to create change. And sometimes the best investment isn't in maintaining the old system, but in building a better one. Even if you have to break some family traditions to do it. The Anderson family's weekly dinner ritual felt more like a medical inquisition than a family gathering. Crystal glasses clinked accusingly as my sister Amanda adjusted her chief resident badge, making sure everyone could see her newly appointed title at Metropolitan General. 3 surgeries today, she announced, cutting into her salmon with surgical precision, including a complex thoracic procedure that Dr. Harrison said was Resident of the Year material. Dad beamed, his own chief of cardiology badge catching the chandelier's light. That's my girl. Following the true Anderson medical legacy. I pushed my food around the plate, already knowing what was coming. The weekly reminder of my failed medical career was as predictable as mortality rates in Dad's statistical reports. Unlike some of us, Mom added, her dermatology practice's newest awards glinting from the wall behind her, who couldn't even handle a basic residency schedule. Research medicine is still medicine, I offered quietly, checking my phone under the table. The hospital board's encrypted message glowed. Emergency meeting in 30 minutes. Critical decision required. Amanda snorted, her perfectly pressed white coat draped carefully over her chair. Research? You mean hiding in a lab while real doctors save lives? How many patients have you actually treated this year, Rachel? Patient impact isn't always direct, I started, but Dad cut me off. Direct impact is everything in medicine. I performed 3 bypass surgeries just today. Amanda assisted in saving a teenager's life. Your mother treated 2 melanoma cases. And you've, what? Stared at cell cultures. I glanced at my watch. A subtle piece that hid its connection to the hospital's emergency response system. 25 minutes until the meeting that would change everything. Actually, my research team has been working on. Research team. Amanda laughed, the sound sharp as a scalpel. You mean those computer nerds who wouldn't know a scalpel from a stethoscope? Real medicine happens in operating rooms, not computer labs. Mom reached across the table, her hand adorned with the ring she'd received for 30 years of clinical practice. Darling, Perhaps it's time to admit that clinical medicine isn't for everyone. We could find you a nice administrative position. Something more suitable. The hidden message alert vibrated again. Protocol Alpha initiated. Awaiting Chief's authorization. The future of medicine isn't just in operating rooms, I tried explaining, knowing they wouldn't listen. They never did. The future. Dad scoffed, adjusting his glasses, the same way he did before delivering bad news to patients. The future is in skilled hands and experienced minds, not computer programs and theoretical research. Amanda stood, smoothing her designer scrubs. Speaking of which, I should head back. There's a complex procedure tomorrow that Dr. Harrison wants me to lead. Something you'd know about, Rachel, if you hadn't quit residency to play with computers. The doorbell rang, its chime cutting through the tension like a surgical blade. Our housekeeper hurried to answer it, returning with an expression of surprise. Dr. Rachel, she announced, the hospital board chairman is here. Says it's urgent. The room fell silent as Dr. James Maxwell, chairman of Metropolitan General's board of directors, strode in, his presence commanding instant attention. Chief of surgery, he addressed me directly, ignoring my family's shocked expressions. The emergency board meeting? I stood calmly, straightening my blazer. Of course, Chairman. The crisis protocol is ready for implementation. Chief of. Amanda's voice cracked, her resident badge suddenly looking very small. Surgery. Dad's wine glass froze halfway to his lips. Mom's hand flew to her throat. But that's impossible. Dr. Harrison. Retired last month. I completed her thought, gathering my things. Shortly after my AI-driven surgical protocol was unanimously approved by the National Medical Board. Amazing how quickly things change when your research revolutionizes modern medicine. But you're not even practicing. Amanda sputtered, her resident badge suddenly seeming to dim in the dining room light. Not in the traditional sense, Dr. Maxwell interjected, his tone carrying the weight of his authority. Dr. Rachel Anderson has been leading our Advanced Surgical Intelligence Division for the past 3 years. The same division that just received a $2.8 billion grant from the National Institutes of Health. Dad's face paled to the color of his surgical scrubs. 3 years. But you told us you were doing basic research. Basic. I pulled out my tablet, activating the holographic display that filled the dining room with 3D surgical simulations. While you were mocking my computer games, I was developing AI systems that can predict surgical complications before they occur. While Amanda was bragging about 3 surgeries a day, my protocols were assisting in 300. The holograms showed real-time data from operating rooms across the country. Surgeons working alongside AI interfaces, robotic systems executing precision movements impossible for human hands, patient outcomes that defied traditional statistics. That's just technology. Amanda tried, but her voice lacked conviction. It's not real medicine. Really? Dr. Maxwell raised an eyebrow. That complex thoracic procedure you're so proud of today? The surgical plan was designed by your sister's AI system. The complication you avoided? Predicted by her algorithms 20 minutes before your team noticed any indicators. Mom's hands trembled as she reached for her wine. But Dr. Harrison, he always said traditional surgical skills. Has been working under Rachel's supervision for the past 6 months, Dr. Maxwell finished. Along with every other surgeon at Metropolitan. The board made it a requirement after her systems reduced mortality rates by 63%. The holographic display shifted to show my actual office. Not the small research lab they'd imagined, but the entire top floor of the hospital's new surgical wing. The words Advanced Surgical Intelligence Division, Dr. Rachel Anderson, Chief of Surgery, floated in glowing letters above real-time feeds from dozens of operating rooms. Your emergency rounds tomorrow, Amanda? I smiled slightly. They've been rescheduled. The board requires all residents to complete my AI integration training before performing any further procedures. Training, she choked. From my little sister? From the youngest chief of surgery in the hospital's history, Dr. Maxwell corrected. And the leading pioneer in AI-assisted medical procedures. The traditional hierarchy you're so proud of, Amanda? It reports to her now. Dad stood abruptly, his chair scraping against the hardwood. This is absurd. Real surgery requires Results. I interrupted, pulling up more data. Like the 82% reduction in postoperative complications? The 91% improvement in recovery times? Or perhaps the 75% decrease in surgical errors since my systems were implemented? The house system chimed again, more urgently. Dr. Maxwell checked his phone. Chief, the crisis protocol. Of course, I gathered my things, including the tablet that controlled more medical procedures than my family had performed in their entire careers combined. Amanda, since you're so interested in complex procedures, you're welcome to observe tomorrow's demonstration. Assuming you have the security clearance. Security clearance? Mom's voice pitched higher. For surgery? For revolutionary medical technology that just received FDA approval for autonomous procedures, Dr. Maxwell explained. The first in history. The emergency meeting is to coordinate the national rollout. I paused at the door, looking back at their stunned faces. Oh, and Amanda? That Resident of the Year nomination? The committee meets in my office. Interesting how perspective changes when you realize who's actually evaluating your performance. Rachel, Dad called out, his voice lacking its usual authority. All those times we mocked my research, dismissed my career choices, questioned my commitment to medicine. I smiled. Consider it a lesson in diagnostic error. Sometimes the biggest medical breakthroughs come from the doctors you underestimate. As Dr. Maxwell and I left, I could hear Amanda's voice, small and uncertain. My performance reviews will be conducted using AI-driven metrics, I called back. Better brush up on your computer skills, sis. The future of medicine waits for no one, especially not those too arrogant to see it coming. The Metropolitan General's executive boardroom hummed with tension as my family filed in the next morning. The wall-to-wall screens displayed real-time surgical data from across the hospital network, each procedure guided by my AI systems. Amanda's white coat seemed less pristine under the harsh LED lights, her resident badge a mere whisper compared to the holographic chief of surgery credentials floating above my station. Welcome to the future of medicine, I addressed the packed room, noting how my parents chose seats in the back as far from the spotlight as possible. Today, we demonstrate the world's first fully autonomous surgical system. Autonomous? Amanda's voice cracked. You mean without surgeon oversight? With AI oversight, I corrected, activating the main display. A complex neurosurgical procedure appeared in perfect 3D detail. My systems have performed 10,000 simulated surgeries for every one you've completed in residency. The learning algorithm is comprehensive. Dad leaned forward, his cardiology credentials suddenly seeming outdated. But the human element is precisely why we need this advancement, Dr. Maxwell interrupted, joining me at the front. Human error accounts for 67% of surgical complications. Dr. Anderson's systems have reduced that to less than 1%. The screens shifted to show multiple operating rooms preparing for simultaneous procedures. Each one equipped with my AI interfaces, robotic systems, and neural networks that could process medical decisions faster than any human surgeon. 3 years ago, I continued, pulling up historical data. While you were mocking my computer obsession, I was developing algorithms that could predict surgical complications before they occurred. 2 years ago, while you bragged about traditional techniques, I was revolutionizing those techniques with quantum computing and machine learning. Mom's hand clutched her designer handbag. But your residency, you left. To lead a $2.8 billion research initiative, I completed her thought. The same initiative that just made Metropolitan General the most advanced surgical facility in the world. The room's AI system activated, its holographic interfaces surrounding each person. Starting authorization sequence, the system announced in a calm voice. Chief of Surgery, please confirm Protocol Alpha. Protocol Alpha? Amanda stood, her resident confidence crumbling. What's happening? I smiled, remembering all the times she'd dismissed my theoretical work. We're about to perform 20 simultaneous high-risk procedures. 0 human surgeons. Full AI control. The color drained from Dad's face. That's not possible. Actually, Dr. Maxwell interjected, it's already happening. The FDA approved it last night. Dr. Anderson's systems are now the new standard of care. All surgeons, including the current staff, will need to be recertified under her protocols. The screens lit up with live feeds from the operating rooms. Robotic systems moved with inhuman precision, AI interfaces predicted and adjusted for complications in microseconds, and patient vital signs remained perfectly stable. "My God," Mom whispered, watching the procedures unfold. "The speed, the precision are beyond human capability," I nodded. "Which is why the board voted unanimously to implement these systems across all departments, including cardiology, Dad. And yes, Amanda, especially in residency training." Amanda sank back into her chair. "Our jobs are evolving," I corrected. "Those who adapt will survive. Those who don't." I let the implication hang in the air. "By the way, your performance reviews next week will focus heavily on AI integration skills. Might want to brush up on those computer games you mocked." The procedures continued flawlessly, each movement a symphony of technology and medical science. The watching crowd of medical professionals sat in stunned silence, witnessing the end of medicine as they knew it. "Dr. Rachel," my AI system's voice filled the room, "the procedures are 57% complete. All patient vitals optimal. Projected recovery times reduced by 82% compared to traditional methods." 1 month after the demonstration that revolutionized modern surgery, I sat in my office overlooking the hospital complex. The entire East Wing had been transformed into the Advanced Surgical Intelligence Center, its gleaming exterior a testament to the new era of medicine. The wall of screens displayed real-time data from thousands of AI-assisted procedures happening worldwide. "Dr. Rachel," my AI assistant announced, "your family is here for their performance reviews." "Send them in," I replied, adjusting the neural interface crown that connected me directly to the hospital's systems. The same technology they'd once called sci-fi nonsense. They entered like chastened medical students. Amanda in her now standard AI integration scrubs, Dad without his usual chest-puffing confidence, and Mom clutching her department performance metrics like a lifeline. "Let's review your first month under the new protocols," I began, bringing up their holographic files. "Amanda, your AI adaptation scores are improving," she said quickly, her former smugness replaced by desperate eagerness. "I've completed 60 hours of neural interface training." 63, the AI corrected. "Though your resistance to automated surgical planning is still flagged as problematic. The system notes you attempted to override AI recommendations twice last week." Dad shifted in his seat. "The cardiology department's transition is behind schedule," I cut in, displaying his department's metrics. "Your team's reluctance to embrace fully automated diagnostics has resulted in a 23% efficiency gap compared to other departments. The board is concerned. But my experience," he started, "is precisely the problem." I stood, walking to the window. 30 years of traditional methods making you resistant to superior approaches. The AI notes you've referred to the automated systems as glorified calculators in staff meetings. Mom's knuckles whitened around her tablet. "The dermatology practice numbers have dropped 40% since you refused to implement the AI imaging systems." I turned back to face them. "Patients are transferring to clinics using our automated diagnostics. The future doesn't wait for skeptics, Mom." The screens changed, showing hospitals worldwide using my systems. Medical schools were rewriting lessons. Old surgeries were fading out. "Your jobs," I said, "are safe only if you accept the change. Amanda, your resident status is now probationary until you pass advanced AI training. Dad, your cardiology leadership role will be restructured next week. And Mom, please," she whispered, "the practice means everything. Will be merged into our AI diagnostics division." I finished. "You can stay as a trainer teaching the AI your experience, but with a lower salary." Amanda's eyes filled with tears. "We laughed at your computer games. They taught me how people resist change," I said. "The same resistance now putting your careers at risk." The AI voice chimed. "Dr. Rachel, who representatives are here for the global briefing." "Thank you," I said, then turned to my family. "Your new contracts are being sent. Review them carefully. The AI doesn't negotiate." Dad stood. "Rachel, about those family dinners, where you doubted my commitment to medicine, I smiled. Good case studies in misdiagnosis. The real threat to progress isn't disease, it's arrogance. As they left, Amanda paused. The resident evaluations next week will be done fully by AI, I confirmed. Better hope your 63 hours of training were enough. Oh, and Amanda, that thoracic procedure you bragged about. The AI did 3 of them this morning. Faster. Better outcomes. They walked out, replaced by health officials ready to adopt my systems. Through the glass, I watched my family's shoulders sink as they passed the sign. The future of medicine, powered by Anderson AI.